Hi guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Welcome to my channel. My name is TitOluwa Sam-Oladapo. If this is your first time joining me here, thank you so much for joining in. Returning subscribers, thank you guys, tribe members for sticking with me even when I wasn't getting myself. I said it a while, just a few videos ago, my comeback video actually, that I took a break off of YouTube to center myself some more because, sometimes we get distracted by the noise, the good intentioned advice of people that is not in alignment with our purpose, actually. And I think that's what happened with me. But thankfully, the Holy Spirit had mercy on me, and I'm back um, with you guys. But today, I just want to share on something that is important and something that affected. I want to share on something that I think is a major part of how I have arrived at where I am now, on the woman I'm becoming. It's part of my story, it's part of my history, and I want to just share on how that you know um, um, more or less played out in my life. So let's jump right into the video. When I was 8 years old, my parents split. I remember very vividly one night we were in a particular house. The next night we're not in the house anymore. That's my siblings and my mom. And so, I mean, I was 8, so a lot of things that I understand now, I didn't understand them. What I knew was our lives had changed. And I think the first thing I noticed is that um, I had a very huge affinity for my dad, you know, and I didn't see him. I didn't see him after that happened. I don't think I saw him in years. Actually, I don't think I saw my father, for like maybe 4 5 years. I can't remember, or like that something. For that we didn't see him, and there were no phones. This was year 2000. There were no phones, or phones were just coming in, or there were no phones or something like that for a while. And so when phones became a thing, you had to have seen the person to at least get the person's number. You get, so it wasn't like a lot of people had phones, so it's not everybody that had everybody's phone numbers. Anyway, so I couldn't reach my dad and all that. But I remember that the first mark that I remember, I'm speaking for myself, is that I kind of dropped in school. I became very restless. I couldn't like stay in one place and learn. I'm a brilliant person, and you would learn in the course of this video that how I actually began to think that I'm not a brilliant person. I actually believe that I was not an intelligent person, and I was okay with it. That okay, if I'm not intelligent in my books, I'm intelligent in art. I'm intelligent in expressing myself. You couldn't shut me up. I'm going to express myself in various ways. If it's not writing, it's going to be in drama. If it's not in drama, it's going to be in speaking. If it's not in speaking, it's going to be in singing. So I was always, I never felt my insecurity was not apparent. I always covered it up. Anyway, my parents, split up. Now, I just want to the goal of this video is not to more or less narrate what happened and all of that. They were both adults, and whatever caused the separation, honestly, is up to them. I really cannot judge because thinking about it, the age I got married and the age my mom got married are about the same age. And I know the way that I was then. To be faced with the same situations that she was faced with, to be faced with the same situation that my dad was faced with at the time, I don't know because now what I know now, they didn't know then. There was nothing like really marriage counseling or ministry and all of that at the time. It was just roles and duties. So at the time my mom even separated, or they separated, it wasn't common in Ibadan. I grew up in Ibadan. Ibadan is a city in West Africa, in Nigeria. And it was totally different because it wasn't common. I remember that another instance I remember it was we changed schools. I moved from Junior International School to Bodija International School in Ibadan. And one of the teachers in my class started to ask. So the thing is, people knew. You see, Ibadan elite society is quite small. So people knew what had happened. And so this teacher would ask me in class, where's your dad? Why is your dad not around? And all of that. I think I've always been a sharp mouth young girl. So I went to meet my mom and I told her that this person is asking about my dad. What should I say? My mom said, whenever she asks you, tell her that she should come and ask me. She should not ask you, she should come and ask me. And I will tell her exactly what it is, but you don't worry yourself about it. Whenever your teacher asks you, tell her to come and ask me. She never asked my mom till today. You get, so my mom pumped so much confidence in us, and I really applaud my mom for that. Even as different as it was, it was different in church. I mean, my mom. Some people would have looked at my mom like, "Look at this one." Some of them were not enjoy. In fact, let me just. Some of them were not enjoying their marriages. So it's not as if their marriage was 150% great, or even 100% or 90% great. Many people were literally, at the time they thought, and a lot of people still think, that suffering in marriage is part of what the Holy Spirit or God asked you to do. So they were judging my mom, but she didn't care. I remember those are the times when my mom used to say things like, when you notice that people are looking at you, miss a step and turn it into dancing. So they will add that to their gist when you're singing, when you sing around them and purposely miss sing a wrong line so that they can add that to their gist. Like, don't, more or less, don't play to people's opinions of you. Just live your life. And so she kept telling us that what happened between my dad and I, and what happened between my dad and her, is not our business. It's not our business. It's not our business. It's not our business. And I think that more or less like gave me the audacity to live my life. To although of course there was an extremity to it, in the sense that if maybe she had sat us down, I'm just thinking, I don't really know if it's going to work, but I think that if you sit your child down and you be like, okay, your dad and I's marriage did not work out because of this reason, and when you're much older, I'm going to explain to you why, in details. However, I want you to note that your dad loves you, your mom loves you. You are not the reason for this. Don't ever feel that either of you, if you have more than one child, is the reason for us splitting up. Don't think that. Live your life. Whatever you need, to the best of my ability, I'll provide. Whatever you need, to the best of your dad's ability, is going to provide. I think that just that reality, children can actually handle much more than we think that they can. I'll take that again. Children can actually handle much more than we think that they can. And I think one of the lessons that we are learning from Generation Alpha is that they know stuff. We know when we were much young, we knew, but we couldn't say. We knew, so we acted it out. But now they're asking questions, they're talking to you, they want to know the real thing. You can't even lie. So just tell the truth. Of course, you may distill it a little bit because of the capacity of the understanding. However, I don't think we should lie to our children. Don't say, oh, your dad went on a trip and he's going to come back. No, no. I think my mom did that correctly. There was nothing like your dad went, we are separated. Your dad and I are not together, and so we knew, right? And I don't think I ever felt that it was a sin, in all fairness. I don't think, thinking back, I don't think, oh, my parents committed an unpardonable sin. My mother never really taught us religion. As much as she didn't know, as much as she knows now, my mom is a great preacher now, but as much as she didn't know what she knows now, she never played to the religion game. She never preached religion, do this thing because if you don't do it, you're going to hellfire. She never. So it was more like a relationship thing. So I think that not thinking that my parents' divorce or separation was a sin came from the relationship my mom preached that we have with Christ. And I think my mom mirrored that very well. I think that this is what has um, part of what I stand for and I stand in as a child of God has a lot to do with the foundation my mother built with us. We lived, you would know from all I've said, that we lived with our mom. And of course, there were a lot of things that may not have played out exactly right, but nobody's perfect. I mean, she was going through a whole lot in that season. Of course, that doesn't excuse some of the things that she may have done, or that some experiences that we may have gone through, but understanding it helps you to give out a lot more compassion and empathy. So I'm just going to go right into the lessons and some of the points that I learned. I think that number one thing that I learned is, adults, your parents are human beings. I think that we look beyond their humanity sometimes and look at them as people who fill roles. As children, yes, maybe you're between the ages of 0 and 12. Maybe you're looking at your parents as roles. But once you start hitting early teens and hitting especially as an adult, you have to begin to look at your parents as a human, as a woman. I look at my mom as a woman in her own right. So she's a woman to me as though she didn't give birth to me. Of course, I honor her as my mother, but I relate with her as a woman. Sometimes I see the little girl that she was, or maybe that didn't get full expression, still trapped in her 62-year-old body. I see my dad as a young man. I see him as the boy who didn't have the love that he may have needed because he was trained by generation that gave birth to baby boomers. I see that in him and I relate with him as such. So what I'm not going to take from anybody, I honorably and politely lay down my boundaries with my parents. It has nothing to do with, oh, they're my parents, so I'm just going to take anything and then I'll be building resentment in my inside. I go ahead and tell them that I'm offended. I feel offended by this thing that you said or by this thing that you did. So seeing, and then I love them as human beings, no, it's not conditional by the grace of God. I've received grace enough to love my parents without condition. So I love them. I express my love to them without condition. It has nothing to do with whatever they stand for, whatever they did, whatever they failed at, whatever they succeeded at. I love my dad because he's Mr. Akindele Olumideko. I love my mom because she's Mrs. Olushola Johnson Olumideko. I love my parents because of who they are and what they stand for. And yes, I love them more because they gave me life or they partnered with God to, especially me, because I mean I could have easily been aborted, but really they gave me life, you get. So I love them a lot. I love my parents, and I think that it helps me to relate with them better. Number two, I think that I this number 2 point is exactly what I'm grateful to my mother for. And that's the fact that even though we didn't see our dad, and my dad went through his own growing process and maturing process in the whole divorce and separation thing, my mom never, and I mean never, turned our backs against our dad. I remember one scenario comes to my mind. My dad was in a weak moment. I think he had sent a letter to the house, and I read the letter, and I was really, really not happy. I was really displeased with the letter, and I wrote a very, very toxic, poisonous letter, and I was going to send it to my dad. But before I sent it, the Holy Spirit had asked me to show my mom, and so I showed it to her. And immediately she read it, she just said, "Don't send this to your father. No matter what he does, he is still your father." I remember she was sitting on the balcony at our house in General Gas, Akobo, Ibadan. My Ibadan people know exactly what I'm talking about. And that is, I mean, that stood out to me. I think that was the last time I tried to even do anything, to defend my mom. So I need you to understand that their weaknesses are their weaknesses. You don't have to defend your mother or defend your father with any parent that is making you do that is harming you. It's not doing it right. That's a selfish parent. Any parent that is making the child fight his or her cause with their ex partners is damaging the future of the child. It's not your business. You were not there when they were wooing each other. You were not there when they decided to stick with each other to have you. You were not. I mean, it's not your business. You get. So don't take the side of any parent in that sense. I mean, unless it is extremely the abusive case where even at that, you don't even have to insult your dad. You can just boundary, or your mom. You can just establish boundaries. Like, okay, I don't think I'll be able to come and see you now, dad. I don't feel safe around you. I don't think I'm going to come and see you, mom. I don't feel safe around you. And block whatever manipulation, emotional, whatever, because they are human beings. They want to employ anything. But don't take the defense of your mom or your dad to the other side, where you now begin to hate one party over the other. Even if one person is trying to put this other person in a bitter light, understand, see it as your mother is venting to you, or your father is venting to you about a hurt that he has suffered from somebody that he loved or loves. You get, and try to distill your mind away from. I'm telling you the truth. It helps your mind. It helps you to be centered appropriately. Number three, your life is bigger than your parents. You were sent through your parents, not to your parents. Let me take it again. You were sent through them and not to them. So whatever is going on in their life should not make a dent on your life. Of course, if you're much younger and listening to me, maybe there are certain things that you have no control over. But listen, once you start to get to a certain age, once you are in your 20s, your early 20s, you need to start taking responsibility for your life and have deep conversations with yourself. You will cry in those conversations. Those are conversations that the Holy Spirit and I had. You will cry, you would mourn, you would grieve what you knew. You would do all of that. However, you must get to the point where you say, okay, at this point, this is now my life. This is me and God. What does God want? What do I want to do? And what is God's purpose for my life? Away from what your parents are doing. If I did not tell a lot of people that my parents were once separated and divorced, they would not know, because by the grace of God, God was able to teach me to take my life, with Him seriously. So God is the one in control of my life, not whatever people think. Do you understand? And this brings me to my next point. You don't come from a broken home. Listen, broken home is not a father and a mother separated. A broken home, people are in dysfunctional homes where the mother is the one carrying all the load. There's a lopsided union. The father doesn't care, or the mother doesn't care. Somebody's a drunkard. Somebody is wrongfully attached to drugs and all of that, and they're still together. But it's a broken home. I don't think I came from a broken home. I don't identify as someone that came from a broken home. You know why? Because once it's leveled up a little bit, once we went through our healing patterns and everything, we were actually happy. Do you understand? We were good. We were fine. My mom did not just pretend. She told us the truth. She always spoke the truth to us. She always told us her mind. Yes, there were things that happened that maybe should not have happened. However, listen. It is not, we didn't come from, so don't identify as that. Oh, I come from a broken home. Oh, I come from a broken home. It's because I come from a broken home. You don't come from a broken home. Your parents are separated. And so move on. Don't stay there and say, oh, I wish my parents were together. Listen, I'm going to sound very controversial here, but I thank my mom for separating from my dad at the time that she did, because my dad needed to go through some growing up process. That's the only way that could have happened. That's the way that he could have heard God. My dad is much better for it now. If she didn't, the brokenness, would have, because he's the head of the home, it would have spread much more into the family. Do you understand? So it's like somebody is like coronavirus. Somebody has COVID. Now, the person is not condemned because the person has COVID. The person can, if the person trusts God and does all that is necessary, can heal from it. However, you can't say because, oh, we love him, you not keep hugging him, all of us and the children. And that's what some women do. And I'm sorry, but I have to say the truth. Some women, we put our children in, I'm now a woman, I'm 30, I can tell you for a fact. We put our children in situations where the man is obviously sick. The man is not well, and you are putting your children there, and you somehow believe that the facade of a father and mother and everything together, will help your children live a better. So you hear stuff like, "Oh, I'm staying for the children." No, you're not. You're staying for selfish reasons, as per what people will say. You're avoiding what people will say. But I mean, these are the reasons, financial reasons. You're not staying for the children, because if it's for the children, you should get out of that situation. A man is emotionally abusing you in front of your children. That is not healthy for your children. I'm very passionate about things like this. A man is physically abusing you in front of your children. That is not healthy for your children. We had the unfortunate story of a minister in Nigeria earlier this year who died. And one of the testimonies, or one of the horror stories we heard, is that the man used to give the children belt to hit their mother. What are you staying in that kind of marriage for? And you say you're staying for the children? The man is toxic. Get your children out of that. He's going to get fine. He will be healed by God's grace, if that's God's will and if he submits to God's will. But listen, the covenant of life is stronger than the covenant of marriage. And if one person is okay, that's the mother or the father is okay, you get your healthy children out of that situation. Because now, the children have to go through more. They have to go through like a deeper recovery process, because what they have been exposed to is too toxic for them, and it's going to affect them much later in life if they don't get recovery. So I'm grateful to my mother, because she helped us. She took us away from that. While my father now got healed, and when he was healed to a particular extent, in other words, where he could come back. He came back by the grace of God. Some people never came back. Some people, life change. Maybe the father remarries or the mother remarries. Fine, oh well and good. Grow. See, listen to me. You can't pause and say, "Oh, my father cannot get remarried. It's going to affect me." I'm sorry. I don't know what you expect me to say here. I'm telling you from for a fact, you can't live your life by the decisions of another adult. Whether it is succumb to God or not, you must take responsibility for your life. I think I'm really passionate about that. I think also finally, it's already tougher to adults it's already tough to adults alone. Adulting is already tough. You get so now adults as a child of separated parents or divorced parents is harder. Guess what is the hardest? To do all of these things without God. Listen, I could not afford a proper therapist. I still don't think I can afford the kind of therapist that I will want to have. However, the Holy Spirit is the best therapist ever. You want to consider therapy with the Holy Spirit. Tell him that it should lead you, not, not what a lot of pastors are preaching or what is common or what is apparent. No, I'm talking about real therapy where the Holy Spirit goes deep into your heart to bring out a lot of brokenness and baggage and things you thought you dealt with and you've gone over, and he brings it out. Such until you deal with it, it's not going to let that thing go. You need it. It helped me to cry, to grieve, to mourn, to grow, to become, even while my parents were still separate. So that when my parents came back together, I'm able to more or less, I wasn't codependent on my parents being separated. I was whole enough to adjust to whatever situation you get. So a lot of times you forget, you focus more on what my parents are doing, what my dad is doing, what my mom is doing. Hey, that is carrying girls. Mommy is dating this person. Da, 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 da. That you forget to live your life. That you forget to take responsibility for your life. Nature abhors vacuum. That time that you're using to focus on other things, things are getting filled in your inside. And many times you don't realize until you get married and then things are starting. You not say, oh, because I came from a broken home. No, it's because you didn't take responsibility for your life. I'm telling you from experience, I think the main reason main point you need to take away is your parents are adults of their own. They are human beings. They are fallible. They will make mistakes. It's up to them. Advise the little that you can and keep moving. Listen. If they don't listen, move on with your life. Let them know that Omoima move on. That this child is going to move on with this child's life. I'm going to move on with my life. I'm going to live my life. I'm not going to pause my life to be happy with you or anything. No, never. I'm going to live to the fullness of my life. And I really want you to take that strength with you. When I started like I said, I thought I was unintelligent, but apparently it was a reaction to, I was 8. So yeah, I was much younger and all of that. However, once I got into my master's class, I saw that, well, this girl is brilliant. But this was after the Holy Spirit had led me to do the work. I'd done the work in my inside. Every similarity, everything I was seeing, the Holy Spirit had helped me to point it out, to submit it to God. I mean, it was a deep and extensive work. But then my real self was able to come. I was about 24 when I realized that, no, actually, I'm intelligent. I'm not dull. I'm a brilliant person. There's brain, yeah. You get me? I have sense. Do you understand? So yeah, I think that, I don't know, somebody really needs this because God has put it into my heart for a long time. Thank you so much for watching. Have you seen anybody that's been separated? Is there something you want me to talk about? Maybe something I didn't mention here, because I mean, the Holy Spirit just gave me the nudge. It's been on my mind for months actually to talk about this topic. And if there's something you want me to speak on in this regard, you can just write in the comment section. Other than that, you can tell me if you've been raised by a single mother or a single father, how was the experience? You want to share? You can write in the comment section. I'll be reading and I'll get back to you. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for watching. Like I said, I'm back and God is back with me. God bless you. Bye. Mwah.